Hey everybody, Doug here with 2 Plus Stuff, and as many of you know, I am all about taking armies, building them, painting them, and then getting rid of them. I swap armies quite a bit. And I can do that because I adhere to a standard that I call 3 foot fabulous, which is basically saying, how can I make the army look as awesome as it possibly can while doing it in the most efficient way possible. The models are fully painted, more than 3 color minimum. They look great, and they're also all having matching bases. On that note of talking about bases, I wanted to bring up a really cool company that reached out to me. They did send me some sample products, just I'm going to throw that out there to be honest as possible, but they do something really cool with the way that you can do basing to your miniatures. Again, fitting into my theme of making things as easy as possible but look as good as possible, they really do, it's a very simple process and they look stunning. The company I'm talking about is Gamer's Grass, and you'll find a link in the description down below. But basically they reached out and just said, would you like to take a look at this product? You can give us an honest review. I was not asked to give a positive review, of course, but just an honest one. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the product and the kind of sheer range that they have going on. So I'm going to go and show off what they sent to me. I've already cracked it open, and I'm going to show you over the course of this video some examples of how I was able to use it. So here we are at the downward cam, and I wanted to show off a few things. I'm going to show off what Gamer's Grass sent me, as well as a few competitor products to show you why these are actually quite different, okay? So I'll start off by showing you what they sent me. This is like their, preview pack, I guess. We have the basing bits of a temple, which has a whole bunch of stonework. I'll try to get it to where the light's not glaring on you. Whole bunch of stonework, lots of little temple builds. As nice as these package open, they can open and re-snap shut. So that's kind of nice for keeping them. And inside here, there's little column bits. There's right there's a statue's head coming out of the ground. My buddy Ben is going to be using some of these for his Sisters of Battle, so we can use those up to the side. And then along with that, I'll put these off to the side a little bit, we have pretty much the same thing of basing bits, but with rocks. Now I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, where there's something especially unique. Let me pop these out. One thing I like about these rocks in particular, now again, I know a lot of folks live in areas where you can just walk outside and grab rocks. I do not. First of all, nice solid straight bottoms. They snap right onto your base, glue down very easily. But you can't really see it here, but a lot of these angles are in 45-degree angles or are flat on top on some of the other ones, where if there's a character who's like stepping forward or launching himself off something, you can very easily pin this to them. And that makes a huge difference when it comes to transporting some of those models that are like in acts of motion. I think of like Daughters of Cain, where they're like lunging on one heel, that kind of stuff. And now we have basically the main event, which is the Tufts themselves. And I want to kind of divvy these up a little bit. So first we have, this is an odd one, and I love that it exists. This is their alien grass. So instead of just making plain, boring, like normal grass, this one is, I don't know how well it shows up, but it's purple towards the bottom and then gets progressively more hot pink at the top. Super awesome. And I'm going to show you an example of this on my Nurgle tree because I think it really makes colors pop. If you want to have some weird wacky stuff, they have a few variations of this with some different color combinations. Kudos for trying something weird. I'm all about this. I like it. Moving on to the more I guess normal stuff. I want to show off this here. Is a mixed flower set, as they call it, and I'll show off some of the stuff here. But basically, when you buy their packs or sets, they give you these 4 little micro things. And of course we have yellow flowers, white. These are like a dark purple, and these are bright red or pinkish. Whenever you buy their mixed packs, they come like this, where there's 4 squares that you can do all kinds of color combinations with. We're going to get into why that's important, but just know that stuff like this is really awesome. I love the sets that they sell because they allow you to make a whole bunch of different kinds of environments. So we'll move on swiftly. Okay, so now I want to get to kind of the main event, and apologies, I actually accidentally switched the packaging on some of these, so ignore what the package says, but I'll go through them in order. I got so excited to use them. What's cool about this product line is that you can kind of imagine, if you wanted to create a natural scene, how grass grows and go from there. So obviously this is the very, very, very tiny little bits of grass. This is like a medium height, and I would say that this one is pretty much what you would normally get spike green tufts, what you would normally get if you were to go to any other company, right? That's kind of the standard baseline thing. And then it gets a little bit more wild from there. This is where it gets a little bit longer. They're thick clumps. And this one is just overgrowth, very insane, all over the place kind of thing. It would be perfect for going near like a stream or a pond to kind of represent that very intense vegetation. Now, normally, like I said, this is the one that you would get if you were to go to any other company. When you put all of these together and you start making very dynamic bases, it, first of all, fills up space much more efficiently than using just one of these. Having one of these, the big ones, spreads out and means you're actually using less like material, so you have to buy less of them, which is awesome. But also the way that grass grows is just very different. It varies a lot. And so I wanted to compare it to a few different things. We have here, these are from Army Painter. This is their green grass tuft. Obviously, starting off, you can see the difference in color. This is more like a, AstroTurf, that kind of like fake grass. Whereas the Gamer's Grass stuff looks more natural. Here's their Burnt Earth one, which I believe Gamer's Grass has a version of. And here's kind of their Snowy Peak one, which I know they do. And so what you're going to see here is if you look on the back of these, you can see from the camera, they're all just these perfect little circles. There's a few smaller ones over here. There's a few bigger ones over here. Nature doesn't grow in perfect symmetry like that. And then all these competitors, companies, that kind of stuff. I have one here from Serious Play, which is fundamentally the exact same thing, just they're all perfect circles of different width. But here's the thing about these, they have incredibly varied patterns. So you can really create a very dynamic scene using these in conjunction with one another. That it will look natural because it's growing in wild and different ways. And I'll show you some examples of that, but this is what I really wanted to come down to, is one, show you off what Gamer's Grass sent me. Thank you guys. But then also talk about when you use them in conjunction, you can create some incredible little scenes. Now we'll talk about some of the sets. Remember the sets I mentioned before have like 4 of these little squares here? They have sets where it's different lengths. They have sets where it's different colors that work together really well to create a visually interesting base and all kinds of stuff. So this is a fantastic sample, but what you can do with the stuff on their website is much, much cooler. Now, of course, it's easy to look at these and think, well, these are just pre-made tufts like you can buy anywhere. And on the surface, that's probably accurate. The thing that they do differently, however, is making things seem more natural. By this, I mean, if I were to go grab a set of tufts by Army Painter, which is the ones that I've always used up until this point, they are always circular in how they are shaped, and they're always the exact same height. They look very rigid, and nature doesn't look rigid. It looks kind of varied and kind of wild. And if you look at the different shapes, the literal shapes of how the grass is like glued down, they're very different in this. They have a lot of different options, things for maybe having some surround a stream or a pond, some growing out of rocks, lots of different shapes and sizes. And sizes is the important thing, where they actually have different setups to where there's different lengths of grass, and by mixing them together, you can get some really cool effects. Because nature doesn't grow in a static, perfectly regimented way, and so these things really bring the bases to life. Like I said, on their own, they're really cool, but when you start kind of bringing other stuff into it, like say having it jet out of a rock or around a pond where you use like an acrylic medium, that kind of stuff to make a water effect, all those things really add to your basing. Now, this is just the stuff that they actually sent me, but I went over to their website, and what you'll see, and I'll throw it up here on the screen, there's a huge mix of different like colors, shapes, sizes, and if you want to add other things in there like rocks, and they have a few temple features like for like stone temple floors and that kind of thing, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. I know a lot of folks live in areas where you can just go outside and get rocks to use for your basing, but I don't. And so I was looking at these very keenly, because what I noticed is that some of them, well, many of them I will say, have flat surfaces, either like perfectly level, or like a nice 45-degree angle. Now this is important because so many miniatures from, say, Games Workshop, Privateer Press, whatever, they have their characters in motion or one leg up. And so what you can do is model them in a way that there's not gap filling to do, like on the rock that they're standing on. There's a perfect surface to be able to put their foot on, which is really important if you want to, say, pin them to the base. It makes it really, really simple. Now that's not going to be everyone's jam, but for those of us who really don't like basing, like me, that is a really nice fix. So I wanted to show off a few minis that I actually used these on, and you can leave comments down below what you thought, and there's different ways that you can approach this, but for me, I mainly used the 2 sets of the different grass tufts on my Hawk Islam from Infinity, because I wanted to give them an arid kind of environment look. And the other ones that I used quite a bit were on my Nurgle tree, where they have an alien grass tuft type of thing, and they have multiples of these, where they have kind of wild extreme colors to simulate like an alien battleground, but I thought they worked perfectly for adding a splash of color to my otherwise very dark and morose version of Nurgle. If this is a product that interests you in the least, first of all, a few things I want to tell you. One, the price is pretty much on point for other similar products in this vein. So that's awesome that they're staying competitive, and they're offering something different where if you go to their website and you look at the different packs that they have, they come with varied sizes and designs and colors in each one. So you can buy one of these and you'll get a whole plethora of different kinds of tufts to make whatever scene you want to make. There's really great value in that because in this way, you're kind of buying a little bit of, like, say, 4 different kinds of tufts, whereas if you went to Army Painter or Games Workshop also has tufts, you're really buying pretty much the same kind, and it might have different like base sizes for how thick the tuft is, but for the most part they're pretty much identical. Whereas this, you get a nice swath to create very, very realistic scenes. So wrapping it up, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm not into fancy stuff. I don't like spending a ton of money on bases because I don't appreciate them as much as I probably should because I don't use them to tell stories. But what I do like is when a very simple all-in-one product comes along. It's like, hey, use this, be a little creative, and you can make some very dynamic looking scenes. And that's exactly what this is. You know, it's not magic. It's not going to revolutionize everything. It's a simple one-stop buy for whatever kind of base that you want to get a whole bunch of cool effects that'll really bring your models to life. Much like with my painting, I want the best result for the least amount of time and mental effort put into things because this is my hobby, it's how I relax. This kind of product allows me to do that. One thing they do offer, which is kind of interesting, and I'm probably going to pick some up, is they actually have battle-ready bases, which is essentially they take all the other products they sell and make the bases for you and then ship them. Like, all you have to do is literally just glue your model on. Now, they are a little bit pricey, and I probably wouldn't do an entire, like, 40K or Age of Sigmar armies worth, but they are perfect for things like Kill Team or Necromunda or Warcry, and so I'll likely be picking up a set of the Temple ones for my COD or Necromunda, so I'm very excited about that. But that's something I would also encourage you to check out, because what's really cool that you can do is, say you buy one of the pre-made sets, right, where they're all made, and you can see how they use the products that they sell to make these incredibly cool looking environments. And then you can just buy probably for cheaper on the whole, buy a bunch of the individual items like the grass tufts and the rocks and that kind of stuff, and then make your own using like the pre-made ones as a template. And that could really stretch you pretty far. All that to say, there's a lot of options here. It's a really cool company. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, Gamerscrest. I know it took a while for me to get this. Basically, I wanted to put it on a few different models and kind of get a sense of how to create really cool scenes with them and explore the website a bit more. And then all this stuff in the world's going down. So it took a little bit of time, but I appreciate all the input that I had from folks like you talking about my bases when I showed off my Hack Islam on Instagram. And I'll encourage you to just check them out. If nothing else, it is another one of these small businesses in the hobby that we love that we can support because they make really cool things. If you have used Gamer's Grass, let me know what you've been able to create with it in the comments down below. I'd love to see it if you have an Instagram handle as well. And I will catch you next time. Happy wargaming.